Good evening and welcome to the RCB Radio Sport Show, live on 92.5 and 94.8 FM in West Clare and online to the global audience at www.rcb.ie. My name is Jim Conlan and this evening's show comes from our new YouTube channel, RCB Sport. I'm delighted to be joined by RCB Sports members Nicholas Rynne and Noel Greene to reflect on three classic matches that have made a lasting impression on them. I'm first of all going to go to Nicholas Rynne. And Nicholas, you maybe enlighten us there about your first choice of a classic match that has made a lasting impression on you, Nicholas.
Yeah, I suppose I picked three matches, but there's a lot of matches have left it in print. But I suppose you have to pick three. So I picked. I suppose one of the big matches for me was in 1982 when Kerry were going for 5 in a row. I thought it was a big moment in sport when Seamus Darby scored that goal. But the whole game was a great game of football as well. Like, it has to be remembered. And the Offaly weren't supposed to win it, but they did go on and win it. I thought it was a big moment in GAA sports history in Ireland. I think that one stands out.
And Nicholas, in terms of the game, I suppose Kerry were blessed with so many superstars, and Offaly had probably the unknown sort of quantity, but it was a game for the David beating Goliath in many circumstances.
It was in hindsight, but looking back, it wasn't, but it was. I mean, there were household names. Every one of those players were household names, and the iconic Mick O'Dwyer as a manager, like, what could go wrong in playing in a non-Ireland finals? They were so used to turning up and winning. Offaly weren't the biggest team in the country. I'm sure they won't mind me saying that. People wouldn't. They had been in the Ireland the year before, but people who didn't expect them to be able to take away where they had this superb, and they were a superb Kerry team. And they had all the names. They had the ways of winning. They knew how to win big matches. And I suppose that's what made it so enthralling, that this Offaly team could come along and had other ideas and back themselves, and it wasn't just, a lot of people that Offaly stole the game at the end with Seamus Darby goal. But I don't think that's the story. I think Offaly were really, especially in the first half, they really gave it to, all the way to Kerry, like, and they matched them score for score. They matched them with great scores of their own. I remember Johnny Mooney had a great game, and the Lowrys, so many of them really, like, and then Kerry got a bit of momentum, I suppose, just after midway through the second half, and when they win 5 points up, and I remember thinking, well, that's that, and I think nearly everyone would have said, well, that's that now. You couldn't see a team, that particular Kerry team being stopped at that stage, like. But Offaly did not give up, like, and they got, I suppose they wouldn't have said that they got maybe a fortuitous free, but they got it just the same, and it brought it back to the 2-point game, and then of course Seamus Darby's goal. Many will tell you that he pushed Tommy Doyle. I'm not too sure. I didn't see a clear push, but many would say the ball came in behind Tommy Doyle. I think he had kind of committed himself a bit too much. Probably did what a defender would do, was attack the ball. But maybe he did get a bit of a nudge, and it was Seamus Darby's finish. That wasn't the first time Seamus Darby had won All Ireland medals in 71 and 72 as well with Offaly, so he was around a while. Like, it wasn't, you got the feeling that but that was his moment of glory. And
I suppose, Nicholas, we'll bring you on to your second choice now, and you might reveal that for us.
Yeah, I stay on the 5 in a row team, I suppose, for the second one, and that was a great game that I was actually at, and that was Tipperary against Kilkenny in 2010, and it was to remember that Kilkenny were going for 5 in a row, and I think that's what made it stand up for me. I remember being up there at that game, and I remember 2009, Kilkenny were very fortunate to beat Tipperary that day. I thought that they got the rubber degree. They got a 21. It wasn't a 21 in my eyes, and they won the game. And I think Tipperary were really snapped from that, like. And of course, no more than Kerry, the weight of this 5 in a row, the weight of history on your shoulders, was on Kilkenny that day. And of course, if 82 was about Seamus Darby, 2010 in the hurling was very much about Lark Carpet, because he had a superb game, and no less than Noel Hickey. He scored 3 goals, you know, in an All-Ireland final of that intensity, and they ran right 4-17 to 1-18, but Kilkenny had no answer to them. But I think the way the history, and I suppose Tipperary really at that stage really owed Kilkenny one, and that game really stands out, because, you know, when a team is going for 5 in a row, it's something very special. They were no more than the Kerry team. The Kilkenny team of that year they were all household names. They were superb hurlers, and they had done it all. And it looked like they would have won the 5 in a row as well. They were favourites to win it. But Tipperary, like no more than Offaly, had other ideas. And that really stands out, being there, being at it, you know, I got really pulled into the whole occasion. Like, you know, I'm one of these fellas, I don't mind who's played. It doesn't have to be Clare all the time. I love sitting about. Actually, I love a neutral game where I'm a neutral. Now, I was favouring Tipperary the same day. I have to admit that. But I have a lot of friends down in Tipperary. But when you're up there and you can really sit back and watch this, and the crowd around you, you know, it was a really special occasion. I thought, you know, it stands in the memory.
I suppose, as someone who loves attacking hurling, I suppose the firepower on the display in terms of Owen Kelly and Noel McGrath, or young Noel McGrath, and back in those days, and Owen Kelly just deadly, and then you flip it in Kilkenny with King Henry and so many of the prompt hurlers, a young sort of TJ Reid probably as well.
Yeah, I suppose Kilkenny were a bit unlucky, because I think Henry Sheffner went off after about 12 minutes, I think.
Yeah, he went off very early, yeah. And it was a hamstring he had probably.
Yeah, maybe he shouldn't have started, but I suppose he was the tallest man of the team, and I suppose Brian Cody wanted him out there. But when you're looking down, you know, from the stands at them players, like, and you know, they're all for both teams. You know, you would just know of their ability, and they were at the peak of their, you know, Owen Kelly was a fantastic hurler. There's no doubt about that. Like, you know, there were so many more that day as well, and Cummins and goals. You know, I remember Brendan Cummins scoring a long range free that day. Like, you know, just lifted the whole crowd, and you know, it's lovely to be in Croke Park when your own team is there, but it's also lovely to be there when you can sit back and really enjoy 2 other teams going at it as well. And when you know the fantastic rivalry that's there, bothering each other, and all that goes with it, it just made for a great occasion. It stands out for me, certainly.
And I suppose, Nicholas, before I bring you on to your final choice that is not a GA selection, just to bring you in there, Noel, in terms of Nicholas's first 2 occasions, a famous win for Offaly and that 2010 triumph for Tipperary, knocking off a Kilkenny team going for 5 in a row. What are your sort of thoughts on both those games?
Well, I think the 5 in a row Kerry was the closest any team got until obviously Dublin last year. A turning point in that game was, I think it was a Mikey Sheehy's penalty for a long say. I think they were 4 points up. Nicholas might correct me on that. I think they were 4 points up. If they got it, they would have gone up 7. I think Kerry would have definitely won. So that was a big turning point in that All-Ireland. And I think, I mean, I lived down in Kerry for a few years there in college and over the years there. And I think the one big gripe they started had, maybe not necessarily the goal, because the goal can happen any time, but they feel like the 2 frees before that were very soft frees. I think they were 4 ahead and they brought it down to 2 and gave Offaly a chance of not even drawing the game but winning this. So I think that's the thing that really stings them in the end. Is that Offaly had the opportunity to win the game with those 2 frees that they got. But look, that's by the way. Kerry I thought could have levelled it in the last couple of minutes as well, but I think the shock of the goal really affected them. And as for Kilkenny, I think the talisman, as Henry Sheffner, as Nicholas said there, him going off after 12 minutes, it sort of didn't suck the life out of Kilkenny, but I always felt Tipperary anyway were always that little bit ahead of them all through the game. And I think to the second Laura Corbett goal is one of the finest hurling goals I've seen in Croke Park. The movement, the run, and the finish is just fantastic. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was a JJ Lady through the hurl as well. He was going through. It was a fantastic finish, and he ended up getting 3 goals in All-Ireland for Laura Corbett. So I think Tipperary, I think it was 8 or 9 points to 1 in the end. They definitely deserved that All-Ireland, and then they made up for the year before. And I thought 5-0 is a very hard thing to do. Dublin Doughty team to have done it. So it just shows how hard it is to do it. And they were unlucky not to do it, Kerry, particularly in '82. But such is life, we all have to move on. And Kerry are rebuilding again, and they're going all the guns blazing, maybe to try and win the All-Ireland the next couple of years or so.
And I suppose, Nicholas, we'll bring you on to your final choice now, and this is not a GA selection. And what have you opted for your third choice?
Yeah, just to finish off that one, there's one man I didn't mention who I loved watching, and that was Matt Connor. He was just a superb player, and he played in that '82 final. And I just wanted to mention him as well, because he was just a fantastic player. But went to my third selection. So many iconic moments in sport, but I think for me, being a GA person, I think when England came to play Ireland in Croke Park was really a standout occasion. Yeah. It was a standout occasion in so many levels for the country, number one, I think. And it was a great thing for the GA to do, to allow that game to go ahead. I think we really grew up, especially the GA, I think, in the whole country. But what was really special for me was when the God Save the Queen came on, and the Irish fans stayed silent. I thought that was a nice touch, because they were worried. I thought, are they going to stay silent, or are they going to do this? Because we all know what happened in 1920 and the massacre, and we all know our history between the two countries. But I think that showed a great maturity from the fans as well. And it was just not just the game itself. The game itself ended Ireland winning 43-13, which was superb since it was played in Croke Park, obviously, and they got 4 great tries, and I think Shane Horgan's try, where Ron Lagarra kicked the ball across the pitch, and he caught it Gaelic football style, and scored that try. Yeah, exactly. But it just fitted the occasion. I think that try, the way he caught it, like Gaelic footballer would have caught it back in the 1920s, maybe. But for me, that it was the occasion more than the game that stood out. And you felt proud to be an Irishman that day. I really felt really proud that this could happen. And if we could come, even though our history, if we look at our history books, we won't ever forget our history between our countries. But we have grown up, and we showed great maturity. And I lived in England myself for 14 years, and I'd have to say, like, I was always treated fantastic by British, by English people, like, and I'd have to say that. So to see that was a really special occasion in the sporting calendar. I think it stand out amongst the top, definitely in the top 10, and probably maybe in the top 2 or 3 moments in Irish sport. That game could go ahead, and Sean Kelly, I think he would have to take great credit, as he was president at the time, and he was very open-minded, to allow to get the ball rolling, I suppose, and. It was just a special moment in history. I felt, and I think that will send out high anyway. There was great other achievements in soccer and other sports that I could have picked as well. Like they would have been equal to that. But for me, that did stand out, and it always will. And
I suppose if I can bring you in, Noel, we all know the trouble when Ireland played England in the soccer match in 1996, I think, in Lansdowne Row, when there was great loads of crowd invasion and what happened in the stands. And there must have been an awful lot of concern by the GA opening up when they saw something which was only a decade previously, and what happened during that scene was terrible scenes. But to go off so peacefully, it really was a coup in the cap of the GA.
Yeah, I agree that Everton went off very smoothly, but you must remember though, like a soccer crowd is different to a rugby crowd. They say that football kind of bring a hooligan element to it, and actually my big regret actually about that day, it was the one time I actually wanted to be in the country. I won't say unfortunately, but I happened to be in New York that week. We were over and back between New York and New Jersey. I have an aunt living out there in New Jersey. And it was the one time I ever wanted to be in Ireland. It was I couldn't actually see the game, but I heard all about the build up to it, obviously, because the French game was the first game and they obviously lost it. And I'm not the biggest rugby fan, I'm more of a soccer man, Jim, to be quite honest with you. But I was really surprised I couldn't see it. But when I came back though, I heard all about the results, and it was a fantastic game, 43-13. We absolutely hammered them. We got scored 4 tries. Their iconic Shane Horgan tried it just County Mead man. I suppose his GA skills came in handy there, but like great day. And of course, 2 years later, of course, we played England again. We beat them again in Croke Park. So we 2 games against England in the Six Nations in Croke Park, and we won both of them. So it's good memories. I can understand, people are entitled to do it. There was a big debate. My God, it was on for years. But I think the push was when Lansdowne Road, Lansdowne Road was a great stadium. My one regret either in the soccer match or rugby match, it was never at the old Lansdowne Road. But it was, parts of it were falling apart. It was an old stadium. They had to redevelop it. And I think the thought of going Irish matches being classified as home matches in Britain, people going over, didn't sit well with a lot of people in society in general, I think. And I think the GA was a great step with the GA. It needed a two-thirds majority, and it just about made it. And I think the GA was seeing that, we're inclusive, where we can look after our Irish people, because at the end of the day, they had people that play sports like soccer, rugby, all would go to GA matches as well. So it brought us all together. And fair play to them that they housed the international teams, rugby and soccer, for a couple of years, and they were internally grateful to the GA for that.
I suppose it's now time, Noel, I'll bring you on to your own selection, and we'll start first with your first choice, a classic match. This will be a GA selection, and what is it for you?
Yeah, I'll pick the football first, Jim. The first one I have is the 2013 Ireland semi-final between Dublin and Kerry. I just thought it was a fantastic game. It ended, I think, with a 3-18 to Dublin, 3-18 to 3-11. It was just a complete shootout. And if you go back to the early parts of that decade, from 2010 to 2019, I thought football, the way it was played, Donegal, although they expanded a little bit more when they went to Ireland in 2012, but 2 years before the semi-final, the last one Dublin involved was Dublin and Donegal. It was the worst game of football I've ever seen. And I think football, my personal view, was in a sort of a bad way from there on. But this game in 2013 really helped me, I will say fall in love with the game, but it certainly helped me think that football is a great game when it's played positive. Because this was a complete shootout, Jim. Kerry, I think, scored 3 goals inside the first 20 minutes. I mean, Colin Cooper was setting up. He set up 2 goals. He set up the first James O'Donoghue goal. It's a fantastic goal. I don't know if you've seen the highlights. I saw the highlights there recently, Jim. The one that James O'Donoghue, he gets the ball. Colin Cooper's in there with a bit of space, passes into Donegal Walsh. Donegal Walsh straight into another hand pass to James O'Donoghue on the run, and he hits it with his left foot right in the bottom corner. Stephen Cluxton has no chance. Football, beautiful. And then the second goal Kerry got was Colin Cooper again setting up, picking Donegal Walsh in acres of space, and beautiful run, and buried in the back of the net as well. And I think it was just the way football. I just loved the way the football was played that day. Attacking, no defensive systems, all going out for it. And Dublin with, I think, with Mannion scored a goal, dropping ball in from Connolly, pisses into the net. It was just a straight out shootout, and I really loved it because I think it brought James O'Donoghue right into the fore, particularly in Croke Park, because I don't think he'd played in Croke Park before senior level, and he just looked a class act. Colin Cooper was, I think he scored about 2 points per play, but my God, he set up going to score so Kerry. And it was Jim Gavin's first year as well, and this way of playing football was just brilliant. And I think Kerry, were about 2 or 3 points up at half time. They went 5 up. And Dublin railed off, I think, 6 scores in a row to go ahead. Then Kerry came back at him again, and I think on 69 minutes there was a kick out from Cluxton, and it looked like 2 Kerry men went to the same ball, and that man that haunted them 2 years earlier, Kevin McMillan, was bursting through straight down the heart of the Kerry defence. And in my view, I think he went for a point. I think he was setting a goal, but I think he sort of mishit it, you could say, and the ball went looped in over the Kerry keepers, and they were 3 points up, and literally time was nearly up. And then next kick out then was I think Dublin won it again. Dublin went through a few phases, hand passing up and down the pitch, and then they just set on the accelerator again, and Conlan got the ball and just beautiful strike over the bar, and the Clint's fished up in there because they knew they had him in, like, because they were 4 points up. Kerry was tried to respond as best they could, but sadly for them, I think Anthony Maher got sent out. But it was just, I know I'm going on a bit, but it's just the football was just brilliant that day. It was all attacking. It was just those. If there was any sweepers, they sure as hell got into the attacking area as quick as they could, and I would nearly advise anybody to go and watch it up on YouTube or the 313 Ireland semi-finals in Dublin Kerry. It's the way football should be played, Jim. That's why I'm so glad I was able to watch that game.
I suppose, Noel, will bring you on to your second selection now, and this is a hurling choice for you. And what is your pick?
The 2013 All-Ireland hurling final replay between Cork and Clare. Clare won it by, I think it was a 5-16 to 3-16. I remember because, from a personal background to the story, that I was in college in IT3, and we were already just back, and it was my final year. I had a Cork fella who was saying, "Oh, Clare have lost their chance," he threw it away the last day. And to be honest with you, I sort of thought that we might have missed it. I know we drew the game in the last minute. I think it was O'Donovan that got the point in the last second. But we were ahead from majority of the game, and we just couldn't put Cork away. And Cork seemed to be that bit of a hoodoo team. We hadn't beaten them since '98. We had played them in a semi-final in 05. We threw, we were 6 points up when we lost it. In 08, we were ahead of them again in the quarter-final in Thurles, and we would say we threw that one as well. So Cork were always a handle over us, really, to be honest with you. But the game we remembered, I think, for Shane O'Donnell, he scored 3-3 in our Ireland hurling final. I think David Shell told the story that he only told him, I think, 2 hours before the throw-in that he was starting. And I just think that game, I think, again, positive play. I think he scored the 3 goals inside the first 20 minutes. Now, albeit just the defender from Cork was horrendous at times, but he still took them, and he got the chance and he still took them. Cork came back, they won the game, they levelled it. I think Cork got their second goal, Seamus Hardy. I think he got it into the Hill 16 and he levelled up the game. And we were thinking, oh my God, are we going to throw it away again? Or Cork, we just couldn't put Cork away. And then, if I'm not mistaken, I think about 2 or 3 minutes after Cork got their second goal, they'd scored the first goal from Nash. He was looping the ball up into the air and bringing about 4 or 5 steps and whacking it. It was dangerous, but my God, there was some skill to do it. But I think there was roughly about 8 minutes left, I think, or a bit more. And I think it was Conor McGregor got the ball and he roofed into the back of the net, Clare's 4th goal. And then after, I think, I couldn't remember 95 really, and I vaguely remember 97, but this is the first time I could really, since watching my county win in All-Ireland. And then in the last minute, of course, there was 3 points still in it, and I think it was Darragh Honan, if I'm not mistaken. He got the ball out there, you could say there, the corner flag, and just weaved his way in, and just the ball sort of fell over the line, but it made it up to 6 points, and time was up, and there's pandemonium, and then, like, I was just watching it because it was an evening throwing at 5 o'clock. So it's a good memory to have, and it's a great to watch because I know Nicholas was lucky enough to watch many great games with Clare, but that's the one that I always remember because I was old enough to remember. It's like I could take it all in. I could appreciate the game. I could appreciate the win. And as Pat Donald was lifting the Lee McCarthy Cup, it brought me back to my childhood of Anthony Daly lifting. So I think that although there have been other great games, other great All-Ireland finals, that one sticks out for me because it was my county winning it.
And I suppose we'll bring you in, Nicholas, on this. What is your reaction to Noel's choice, the 2013 All-Ireland semi-final, Dublin versus Kerry, that shootout, and then also the hurling, the All-Ireland final where Clare emerged victorious over Cork in the replay?
Yeah, well, I suppose that was the fantastic moment. Clare and Cork, obviously, for a Clareman, probably one of the greatest moments since '97 and '95, obviously. But Dublin and Kerry always bring out the best in each other, I suppose. Yeah, that was a classic game as well, and they always stand out to us, those clashes, like, and there's always so much intrigue around them, and history and everything thrown in there, like. So it was a great selection. But the hurling then for me, like, I mean, Shane O'Donnell scored 3 goals in an All-Ireland final. You know, they said it was a masterstroke by David Fitzgerald, but Shane O'Donnell was scoring goals for free, you know, at under 21 level. It was the natural thing to do. No, he replaced Derek Horan, and what I enjoyed about that was that Derek Horan came on.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget Shane O'Donnell's or Shane Murray's run up. Kenny got the ball out to him, and he sorted up along the Cusick stand side, and to see him, and he got the ball up to one day he was relieving the pressure and then getting the ball up to Hornan, and the great work Hornan done, and it was lovely to see Hornan really getting his goal, and it was a fantastic picture taken of Shane O'Donnell and Derek Horace sitting outside in the middle of the pitch long after the game was over. It's a lovely picture you'll often see around the press. And it was a lovely moment to see the two of them out there together, like having scored 4 goals and 2 points between the two of them. So yeah, I think that was one of the great days. It was unusual. It was a Saturday evening. There was a lot of things about it. You know, it was strange going up to Croke Park on a Saturday evening, and strange being in that Ireland final replay. We'd never been there before, and playing Cork. And as Noel said, one of them, you know, had we missed our chance, you know, but they were a great bunch of lads. Like, it was a classic All Ireland, both games, you know, and absolutely. I just remember the feeling after, like, you walking out, and you know, the feeling of Europe, like, you know, after winning the All Ireland and having beaten Cork. You know, we beat Tipperary in '97, and we beat Cork in 2013 in All Ireland hurling finals. And that's a record that nobody holds, only Clare, and it's a unique record. And you know, those lads brought us so much entertainment, so much joy, made us feel so proud. You know, so good selection, Noel. Yeah,
and I suppose, Noel, we'll bring you on to your final selection, and this is not a GA match, but ironically, you've picked the same sort of moment as me, so we can both talk about this match here. It's a famous game in probably the folklore of Irish soccer. The Ireland won, Holland 0. The World Cup qualifying group in 2001. It was a key moment, Noel, because it knocked Holland out of the equation, and it's a star-studded Dutch team, and almost guaranteed Ireland's passage to the 2002 World Cup.
Yeah, at the time, I think Ireland were 4 points up, if I'm not mistaken, on Holland, but they had the game in hand. So Holland had to win the game. A draw was no good to them. On the fourth, that was the one now, so it's almost 19 years ago now, but it was on the 4th of September 2001. I remember it because for some reason, I remember the day. It was an awful cloudy, dreary old day. We're at home where I was watching it, and it was the one day after dinner. Of course, we were going back to school. It was I was already in primary school. I was in 6th class, so this is my last bit of freedom before back to school. I was watching Republic of Ireland, and I remember the day that Holland. I seem to pick on our bogey teams here. Holland knocked us out in '88 at the European Championships. They knocked us out of the World Cup in '94. They knocked us out of qualification for Euro '96. So, and we had thrown away a 2-0 lead against them in this actual qualifying group. So the fear was that we were going to, after all our hard work, that Holland were going to come and stroll around the park and probably get a 1 or 2-0 win. And to be quite honest with you, Jim, I remember early enough in the game, I think Clivert missed an unreal chance in the first 3 or 4 minutes. Gary Kelly lost the ball. He was clean through, and Shea Gibbon spread himself, and he just trickled the ball wide. I think Zindon had a half chance as well, but nearly 10 minutes later. And we're really, it reminds me of the 2015 game in the Aviva against Germany. We're really lucky for the chances that Holland got, that they didn't take them. And after that, we sort of settled down, and Gary Kelly was getting, I think he was getting destroyed by Mark Overmars. He got a yellow card. Yeah, and we got 0-0 in the half time, and I lucky enough. And I think Holland sort of were a bit frustrated with that, obviously, because they had 2 great chances in score. But we came into the game as it went on. But in the second half, I think about 58 minutes, I think Gary Kelly he
straight through the back of Overmars.
Straight through the back of Mark Overmars, yeah. And Mark Overmars had got a bad old tackle from Roy Keane within 30 seconds of the game as well in the first half. So he was in for special treatment. He was thinking, what have we got to do here? But Gary Kelly got a second round, he got sent off. And then it was really back to the wall. But Ireland managed okay. But then, I think it was a 67 minutes. It's my favourite Irish goal. And it's my favourite Irish moment, to be quite honest with you, because Roy Keane has the ball in midfield. I think Van Bommel is trying to hack him down. He doesn't. I think Yapstam does nail Roy Keane, but lucky enough he gets off the duff. And Finnan, I think, who came on for Keane because we're playing one up front. Gets the ball, I think, and Kaku is marking him. He just about gets enough room to swing across in. And I think Duff, leaves it. And McAteer, who I've seen in interviews, he was saying he was just being a bit late. He said he was supposed to be on the other side because he was a right winger, sure, but he was up there on the left, and he just felt perfect for him, and it just went straight in. He just caught it beautifully, and I went in 1-0. And I've never the one regret I have is, as I said earlier, was never the old Lansdowne Road. My God, the atmosphere when that goal went in from McAteer was fantastic. I remember watching it on telly. I remember thinking, this is just brilliant. Like, I've never seen Ireland, like, I know a couple of years ago to beat Croatia, but we didn't qualify. But this was, we're beating Holland here. Like, we just have to hang on. And Louis van Gaal was the manager, and he was throwing on everyone. He had, I think by the end, he had Overmars, Van Nistelrooy, Kluivert, and Hasselbank all on the pitch at the same time. There was no shape, no nothing. There was just all attacking players at the end of it. And I remember there was a ball brought in. I think to be honest with you, they went a bit long because they missed so many chances as well in the second half. And Staunton, I don't know what he was doing, but he tried to head it back to Gibbon while he was nearly on the ground. And he missed.
It was a penalty.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Given to be fair to him, I don't know. He's trying to get out of the way, but he's trying to run back for the goal. Van Nistelrooy you could say it should have been a penalty as well, yeah. But the ball just runs past him, and we dodged so many bullets that day. But I remember at the end, there was a clip of the balls just swung in. I think Richard Dunn just gets a boot and just whacks it clear, and the whistle goes, and it's just pandemonium. It's because we know with that result that we put Holland out. We're obviously going to the playoff because Portugal beat us on goal difference to top the group. But that is the one results that really stands out for me, because it was a result that held its own for a long, long time, Jim, because we hadn't beaten, until the Germany result in 2015, we hadn't beaten the top seeded team until the Holland game, after the Holland game, sorry. So that game was something that was a benchmark for a lot of Irish teams, and they just couldn't come anywhere near it. But it was a fantastic day. And that Irish Republic of Ireland team, in that campaign particularly, played some of the best football I've ever seen from an Irish team. And sadly, because of the whole side panting, that's sometimes forgotten about.
And I suppose, Noel, I'll turn it over to you now as the spotlight falls on myself for my selection.
Okay, Jim, you got 3 memories that you can, you got a football, a hurling, and one from a non-Gaelic sport suggestion. So what's your first one, Jim?
We'll go for Meath versus Mayo, the All-Ireland final replay of 1996. I remember this because I was probably 11 years old, and I remember the first All-Ireland final I can remember is Dublin winning it in 1995 with Charlie Redmond in his exhibition of kicking. But Meath were then the kingpins of Leinster football. If you wanted the class and the ooze, it was all the Royals. They had probably a mercurial talent, and all the footballers there today, they talk about your Shamey O'Shea's, but the real sequential centre forward back in those days was Trevor Giles. He was an absolutely magician of a footballer, and he was so small in stature, but his brain moved at an accelerated rate. He just saw things on the field that nobody saw, and himself, then you had the bad boy of Gaelic football in Graham Geraghty there as well, and Graham was a bit of a hothead, but he was such a talented footballer, and he was almost reminiscent of Diarmuid Connolly in the way he sort of played the game. He was a Rolls Royce of a footballer, and then you had the ace sort of poacher inside Tommy Dowd. But if you looked at that sort of game in much, Mayo had much the more balanced team. all across the field. If you took the 15, Mayo were probably a more completer team. And why it struck me looking back in the annuals of Gaelic football finals, because people talk about how close Mayo came against Dublin and how they started to throw it away and stuff like that. But in this game, Mayo, actually, I felt this was the game that got away from Mayo in terms of All-Ireland finals. This was the one they should have won. But there were so many crucial earmarks. You talk about moments in All-Ireland finals. Straight away, the medley after 3 or 4 minutes, all 25. I've never seen anything like that in my entire life. I say 10 of them got a red card. But it was just the stature the man Mayo lost in terms of the great Liam McHale, midfielder. Such a prominent footballer. He was their Aidan O'Shea. He was their driving force. They lose him and you think it's going to be trouble here. And but they sort of came back and they sort of responded again, and they sort of went in front. They got the early goal, and Mayo sort of kicked on. They were 1-5 to 2 points up, and then an audacious sort of a lob into the edge of the square, and the keeper came out for it. And I didn't think it was a penalty. I don't know what the referee, Pat McEnany from Monaghan, saw at the time. But one thing that struck me, and being an 11-year-old, was the penalty itself from Trevor Giles. Nowadays, you see the penalties, and they're on the 13-yard line, and they're kicks basically, and they're much more easier to take. This was roughly 20 yards out, and Giles, it was just a sublime finish. He rattled both stanchions in the corner. Any keeper in their pomp would not have saved it. You could put 2 keepers in there and they still wouldn't have saved it. And yes, Mayo still went into the break at half-time ahead. They came out the second half. James Horan was on fire. David Brady was playing really good around the midfield. John Casey in the full forward line. And you just felt yourself that, yeah, Mayo are going to do it. They're going to see this out. And then a moment, Graham Geraghty got fouled 20 yards out, roughly, I think it was the 59th minute, and just a moment of madness in the Mayo defence. They all started complaining about the free. Tommy Dow snuck inside. They all went to sleep. Quick ball, a moment of magic thinking by Graham Geraghty. Found Tommy Dow back at the net, and it almost felt at that moment it was slipping away from Mayo. And they got it back level, and you think, here we go, we have extra time again. Mayo breaking up the field, John Maughan trying to push him on to go for that winner, and then all of a sudden, then Trevor Giles with a magnificent tackle dispossessed his man, basically found the and then an inch perfect ball in past the defender to Brendan O'Reilly, outside the boot, bang over the bar, and all of a sudden, from a position where Mayo, you seen, could not lose, they were winning nearly 3/4 of the game, they lose by a point, and it just sort of set in trend what was to follow for Mayo in All-Ireland finals.
Yeah, the key point, as you said, Jim, was Liam McHale sending off. I think was a Boyle that got sent off for Mead as well, and I've never, I've like yourself, I've never seen a melee like that before. But I think it was very early enough, as you said, in the game. But it's the importance of McHale that was for Mayo. I think if it had been any other player, I think Mayo might have gone on to win it, because he was the soul of that team, I felt, in the late 90s, particularly in 1996. So it was a huge blow for Mayo. And Meads, I thought was Boyle, like Boyle, like, was it Colin? What's his name? Was it Colin Boyle?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a loss for me, but he wasn't the Mayo loss was much bigger. And as you said, I think Mayo have been haunted ever since that 96. I think John Maughan has said that he said nightmares of that 96, because that really was the one that should have won, Jim, on this. Right, Jim, we're going on to your second choice now, and this is your hurling choice.
Yeah, this one I've gone for the 1996 All-Ireland hurling final, and people say, well, 1995, Clare, why would that be the one that's no? But the 1996 one struck me so much more, because you got to sit back as a youngster, as a neutral, and you could really enjoy the game. There was no much such as tension that there was on in 1995, but you had such a great picture for an All-Ireland final. Wexford with a gap of over 30 years, Limerick with a gap over 30 years. It was a great neutral final. There was always going to be whoever won, you felt it was going to be a euphoric occasion. And it was just such a nip and tuck game throughout, and just the intensity right from the off in terms of the ground hurling, the hitting. There wasn't an inch given throughout, and Wexford has some big men and some big leaders, and Larry O'Gorman was through the floor and for scoring 2 or 3 points from wing back, Martin Story out at centre forward, Liam Dunn then at wing back, just the experienced core. And then Limerick, Kieran Carey gave an exhibition on how to play centre-back in an All-Ireland hurling final. He was just absolutely majestic throughout the 60 minutes, and you just not could apprehend that he would be on a losing team. But I think one of the key moments for that was Gary Kirby picking up an injury to his hand. Gary Kirby was so influential. He was the go-to guy for Limerick in terms of scores from frees, and he was so crucial. And TJ Ryan in inside was such a goal threat, but Wexford were able to sort of keep him null. But Wexford was able to get the goal at such a critical stage, and it was just Route 1 hurling. You know, that's what I loved about it. It was just a high ball that broke down, and Tom Dempsey, instincts, ground hurling, bang, 20 yards back at the net. And Joe Quaid was such a superb keeper, and he made so many great saves. There was nothing he could do about that. And you always felt that Limerick were just, the goal was never going to come, and Wexford were just keeping themselves that over. And then Limerick got a lifeline in at half time when the Wexford man got sent off for a straight wild pull on the ground. And you felt, right, Limerick are going to come out here now and they're going to kick on. But Wexford were just able to eke out that point for point and just to stay ahead throughout the contest and emerge victorious by a 2-point victory, 113-14, and 2 absolutely joyous scenes. I'll never forget the scenes, and probably for Wexford hurling supporters, they'll never forget them as well. And Limerick will always felt that, apart from when they won the All-Ireland themselves, that was the one that sort of got away, and it was the great neutrals final.
Nicholas, can I just ask you, just on Jim's choice there, particularly the hurling as our big hurling man, your memories of the 96 All-Ireland final?
Yeah, I just felt that Limerick didn't take off that day, you know, as they should have. And Limerick had been beaten in '94 by Offaly, and you know that was the day they had that All-Ireland won 5 points up, and we all know what happened. Like, and I think that even that game had a big effect on Limerick when they came back 2 years later. They were a great team, but they didn't perform as they could. I felt. But Wexford came in, they were new. Wexford that came out of nowhere really in '96, and they were new, and they were a bit like Clare in '95, where they had nothing to lose. They were in an All-Ireland final. They had momentum behind them, and you know they had Liam Griffin, who was a Clareman, born in Mercer's Mill, just about 2 miles away from where I'm sitting at, less than 2 miles from where I'm sitting at the moment, and I'll have to get that one in. But he was a great manager as well, and I think he just had them right in their heads. Tom Dempsey scored, we all remember that, and the dancing at the crossroads after, and all that. But I suppose both of Jim's picks there, but the you know, Mayo will have huge regrets about that game, and Limerick will have huge regrets, I think, about the '96 All-Ireland as well. And you know, I had to really feel sorry for Limerick, having been beaten the way they were in '94. And then come up again. They had a great chance to win that game. Everything was there for them to win the game, but Wexford pushed on and won it. And you know, it was good. It was great. Hurling that time, Clare were after winning, you know, and then to see Wexford come along and win the following year as well. Like it was a great time, you know. And the Offaly's were going well that time, and Limerick were going well. It was a great time for hurling. Like, you know, the big three wasn't really as predominant in, like, so. That's what made it special as well then for Wexford to come along at that time as well, and you know, it was a great decade of hurling, really. So it's good. Yeah, I really enjoyed the game, I suppose, but I just felt that Limerick didn't you know, I think they never recovered from '94. It took them a long time, and you know, I was happy to see them win in 2017 because they could have lost that game against Galway. It would have been cruel actually if they had, you know, because you know, because of the history that they had, like being so near and yet so far, like, you know, and they were great traditional hurling in Limerick, like back to the 40s. They were a great team in the 40s and 50s, like, so, you know, so with Yeah, great memories there, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, sport can be cool, but it can be absolutely brilliant for the winners. Jim, we're going to go on to your third choice now, non-GA related. What's your pick for your non-GA moment?
Yeah, I suppose for this last moment for me would be another soccer game, and it was the moment that Ireland beat such an illustrious Germany side in Croke Park, and that famous Shane Long goal. It was probably the turn of the decade, and it's probably the last great true Irish soccer moment in terms of folklore. And it was a game we weren't supposed to win on paper. Again, it was the great underdog achievement, but it was a great goal. It was a great gives sort of a great sense of hope to the Irish soccer public that we were about to turn a corner, and it just shows you on any given day, if you get your tactics right, if you get your performance and everyone turns up at their peak, that everyone is beatable. Because if you went on paper 11 versus 11, we were just so outclassed all over the field. That was probably one of the best German teams they ever produced, and so many star players. We know right to win that game, but yet we did.
We did, and of course, we must remember as well. I think Shay Gibbon went off early in the first half. Darren Raldoff had to come on, and he was actually the man that gave the assist to Shane Long. I think Germany were on the attack, and I think David Myler won the ball back, passed it back to David Myler. Dave passed it back to Darren Randolph, and I think the German defence thought that Johnny Waters was coming back from an offside position, but they forgot to keep an eye on the speed merchant of Shane Long. And what a finish, Jim.
Oh, superb finish, and he took it so well. And you just felt that Ireland just defended with their lives on that night. Everything was a last-ditch tackle, and it brought you back to the sort of the sort of Paul McGrath, that defending with our lives. Brought you back to Richard Dunn's heroics in Russia, in terms of Russia. It was that sort of every tackle that had to be made was made, and for the amount of possession we had, we were just totally dominated in terms of position. The Germans just kept the ball. But every time we had the ball, especially from set pieces, we looked a threat. And when Germany felt that they could punish us, that one bit of break, we got that bit of luck. And we, as what we'll say, a smash and grab. But overall, I thought a deserved smash and grab.
It sure was. I think we secured a playoff place with that. I think we lost to Poland a couple of days later, but we had done enough to score a playoff, and we won that playoff against Bosnia and Herzegovina, and I think it was just 3-1 on aggregate. So we went to Euro 2016. It was a turning moment in the group, Jim.
Yeah, a turning moment, but Euro 2016, the tournament itself, probably wasn't too many happy memories for us.
A decent game was okay. Thanks, Jim.
No problem. I suppose that concludes our RCB Sports Show for this evening. I would like to thank our correspondents, our panelists there, Noel, Greene and Nicholas Rynne, for giving their thoughts on the 3 classic matches that left a mark on them. And do follow our YouTube channel, RCB Sport. Do check out this video, and do tune in to our weekly show live on 92.5 and 94.8 FM, and which can be found online at www.rcb.ie. For me, Jim Conlan, take care, folks, and good evening.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, Jim. No worries. See you later, guys.
See you later.
All right, no matter.